station.
News Talk 102.3, 1240 on the AM side. Go to the phone line.
And we want to welcome Melanie Infinger to the program. She is going to tell us about a tragic story that occurred to her less than a year ago, a domestic violence situation in which her worst nightmare occurred, leaving her to plan her daughter's funeral rather than a gender reveal party. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Melanie, give us some background on this story. I will say that I want to say right up front that Melanie is trying to get the Texas legislature to pass a law called Katelyns Law, and she's going to give us the background story to all of this. And so, if you could give us some background.
Yes, ma'am. My daughter, Caitlynne, was 20 years old, beautiful, vibrant, just young mother. She had, at the time this happened, was 8 months old. Her name is Alexis. She was also approximately 18 weeks pregnant when this occurred. And she basically, on the Wednesday before the murder happened, she had her husband, Alex Guajardo, arrested for domestic violence. She actually had called the police to have them arrest him for killing their family cat. She had been staying at a hotel because he had previously punched her the Monday before. She had left the hotel, came home that morning on Wednesday morning, and had walked into seeing her cat in a baggie. He had tortured and killed the cat and put it in a baggie of bleach. So this was, I found out later, the third cat that he had killed. I knew about the one in their relationship that he had killed, but this was the third. She was honest with me that day and told me that this was not just the second, the third. And so she called the police in Harris County to have him arrested for killing the cat. Well, when they got there, they informed her that they couldn't arrest him for killing the cat. So she said, then I want him arrested for hitting me. She had marks on her face from the prior Monday. And so they did arrest him on assault charges and brought him to jail that Wednesday, which is then I was working. She called me and asked me to please come over to help her clean up the apartment from where he had killed the cat. And, and that's when she told me what happened. She had at that point, I didn't know about whenever he had hit her. And, we knew about prior abuse, that we had, been trying to, to get her to leave him. So we knew he was very dangerous. We saw a lot of red flags. We knew he had been, he had killed the cat. I mean, so as a mom, obviously, just really, was constant about, trying to protect her and have her leave him. And it had been about a year and a half they had been together. And at that point, when I went to her apartment, she's like, Mom, I have a plan. I mean, I begged her to come back with me. I begged her to leave the apartment. I knew he had been arrested, but he had been arrested before. I mean, where he had gotten out. And I knew the fact that she had finally stood up to him and had him arrested for the assault. I was very fearful that he would get out and be very angry and obviously go where she was. And I was scared that he was going to, beat her up again or kill her. I mean, I told her many times, he's going to end up killing you. You need to hide. And so that was her apartment. She was paying for it. She, was darting over. She had him arrested. She had his parents come and get his belongings out of the apartment. She felt protected. She felt like he's arrested. He's in jail. We have a plan. I mean, I'm going to take care of these children and, and start over. And so she, I hugged her and I told her I loved her and to please, call me if at any second she needed me. I would come pick her up from her apartment and bring her back with me like I had done several times before. And she, just said, Mom, I got this. I got this. Everything's going to be fine. So I left. And from Wednesday to Saturday, I had talked to her several times. She was in a good place. I mean, she really was. Like, she had finally decided she was, it was over. She had left him. He was, going to be held accountable for his actions and that she was protected by, the system. Well, that's what she thought. And she absolutely was not. I got a phone call while I was at work on Saturday from a medical examiner, and saying that she, basically they had thought I already knew. So that's not, the police department had not informed me yet, but the medical examiner called to give me information, and I was just, obviously it was the most horrific thing I've ever experienced. I mean, because they informed me that she was pronounced dead at the medical center, that he had stabbed her to death. And it was, obviously I just went blank and lost it. And I just had, at the moment it happened, I remember thinking, how in the world did he get out? Like, he had killed a cat. He had an open DWI. He had an open hit and run. He was arrested on domestic abuse and had killed their family cat. So I'm just thinking, who bonded him out? I remember thinking, like, did someone in his family, did a friend? Like, how in the world did he get out?
Melanie, can I interrupt you? I wanted to interrupt you here. It appears he got out on a PR bond yet again, and he didn't have to pay anything. They just processed him out?
Exactly. It was not just one PR bond. This was his second PR bond that he had gotten out on. So they didn't take into account his criminal history. They didn't take anything into account whenever they, let him out free, to walk. And which in turn led to, my daughter's murder. I mean, so absolutely, I blame the system. She thought she was protected. I thought she was protected. Never in a million years did I ever think for a second. Before this happened, I didn't even know PR bonds existed. So when I found out that they just let him walk, I mean, literally like right away, almost like before the ink was even dry, it's like it's just he wasn't held accountable, and he, and then it's, she was a mother, she was a sister, she was my best friend. I mean, we're planning her gender reveal literally the day before this happened. I was buying decorations at Michael's, and and then I get a call that she's murdered, and it's brutally murdered. I mean, she was stabbed over 20 times, and her throat split. I mean, so. It's the most horrific thing, horrific.
What now tell us, he was arrested immediately, I'm hoping?
He was arrested immediately because he actually, after it happened, he walked out the apartment and called the cops on himself. I mean, he called 911 and admitted that he had just killed his wife. He called, and I was told he called the police, and he also called his father. When it happened, and so he was arrested right away.
And I wonder if did she ever file a protective order? I don't know how useful those are always, but was there ever a protective order filed?
Yes, there was a protective order, and it obviously it didn't make a difference in this. And he totally violated it, obviously.
So obviously, after all of this tragedy, you are on a mission to have some sort of bail reform, and you've got the police chief of Pasadena. I think his name is Paul Brugger, and Joe Gamaldi, and he's with the Houston Police Officers Union, and they both joined in with you to help get Katelyns Law passed. And tell us, what are some of the components of Katelyns Law?
Katelyns Law, I mean, mainly what I want to happen with Katelyns Law, and Brugger and Jamaldi have been amazing, and we're so blessed to have them with the support of police organizations helping me get this passed, as well as Ken Good, the lawyer that's been just amazing, that's helped me get this passed. But Katelyns Law is going to mainly, it's to make judges and magistrates look at the criminal history of these individuals that are going, before the judges after they're arrested, before they are give them some kind of PR bond or bond. Because in Alex's case, the DA did come in and request a high bond, and then the magistrate is the one that gave him the PR bond and let him out. So I just want to make sure that go forward, no one ever has to experience what I experienced again, and that lives are not lost, because they're not looking at the criminal history, A. They should never let another PR bond happen after one's already in place. And also, and if there's the fact that when this bail reform started, it says like it should be for nonviolent crimes, and this was not a nonviolent crime. He was arrested on a domestic abuse charge and still given a PR bond. So it's like that should never have happened, and go forward it should never happen. I mean, that's what Katelyns Law is about. Is it should be any assault on anyone. Assault should never be given a PR bond, and the criminal history has got to be looked at.
And in this case, was it just that the two entities didn't speak? The district attorney had set a high bond, but yet the magistrate didn't know. The right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing.
That is, to my knowledge, that is what I've been told, and that's kind of what I think happened. Is that it was just, like I said, it's like I just feel so sorry. These police are going out and arresting, these criminals and risking their lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're arresting these criminals, and then, they're going before, these magistrates, and they're just letting them out without, there's no accountability. I mean, it's like the Katelyns Law. What I hope is Katelyns Law will require judges and magistrates to hold these criminals accountable for their actions, and actually, if you do the crime, you pay the time. I mean, that's the way it should be.
What would you say to folks that think, and you've heard this in the news lately, that cash bail is unfair to the poor?
I think that the bail reform, the way it was originally, it has nothing to do with discrimination. I don't believe it has anything to do with being poor versus rich. I do believe that the way it was set up, it should have just been for, minor type of offenses, like minor offenses, like speeding tickets or just minor offenses. I'm saying it should never have been set up to let people out that are going to be a danger to society. And I think that's the biggest thing here, is it's regardless if you're rich or poor, the crime that you committed should be what, is how the, whatever punishment is going to take place. I mean, I don't think it should have to do with anything to do with if you have the money to pay it or not. I mean, you're putting people's lives in jeopardy. I mean, you're putting. I mean, there's child molesters, there's rapists, I've read about so many cases. I mean, sadly, my daughter's case has been the most horrific. I mean, I feel like, but it's, but it happens all the time. Every day they're letting out like people, and they're violent people, like, that are, for, that threatened or done violent crimes, and they're being let out, and they're, and then they're back in jail again for worse things. I mean, it happens all the time.
Since you've been on this mission, have you found other cases that are similar?
Yes, I absolutely have. I found, I read about a lot of cases, and, a lot of people, that are helping me, like, they will tag me on stuff, and before I even see it on the news, like, I'm getting information on, other, people that just like Alex, like the system that let them out, like, and then they go on to murder, they go on to, be arrested in, some other kind of robbery or molestation, or so. Yes, I have a lot of different cases, that it's the same exact thing. I mean, where the system's just so crooked.
Well, Melanie, I sympathize with you so much. How can Texas residents help get Katelyns Law passed? How can we help you do that?
The biggest thing is just sharing Katelynn's story, and sharing about just these changes that, because it's all about who and the legislature and who you. I mean, it's just getting the connections out there and and these people that think that bail reform is the answer, and that, that everything is the way it should be. It's not. I mean, it's the way that bail reform was set up. It's not what's happening. And I think just getting her story out there and seeing that this is, just horrific. I mean, this kind of thing happens, and it's happening everywhere across the United States. I mean, it's really sad. But yeah, just getting her story out there because we don't know who knows who, and I just need to get it as publicized as possible so that we can make a change and save lives. I mean, I know my daughter did not die in vain, and it was so preventable, and I just know that so many other cases are like hers that, we need to stop.
And Melanie, are there places online where our listeners can go and look this story up?
It's as easy as, you can Google Caitlynn Guajardo,
okay,
and everything comes up. I mean, that's like probably the easiest way. But yeah, it's I've been on. It's also, we've done a story on the Wall Street Journal. We've done a story with Wayne Gilchefino. We've been on the Dr. Oz show. So yeah, so it's several different places.
All right. Well, Melanie Infinger, good luck to you with Katelyns Law, and I hope something happens with this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this, and thank y'all for everything.
You bet, Melanie. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.